Good evening and beyond the new, my friends. I'm sorry that it's been a long time, but I'm back. Hopefully that you guys can get more updated videos from now on. I saw that there's people that still like my content and still some comments every now and then saying that they like my videos. For that, I thank you all for dealing with my shenanigans. Still going through stuff, but I'm not making it a point to tell you guys since I realize that I can't just keep giving an excuse. You guys wanted to see content, and this is. This is a What If Deku Was a Muscle Man. Now, before we start off with this, you can see already in the two photos that Uraraka and female Kirishima are the protagonist or the love interests of Deku. So that's pretty much that right there. But how we're gonna start this off is that Izuku was born with a muscle quirk. At first, it's not noticeable because he was a baby. But over time, people started to get their quirks. And Izuku realized that he hasn't understand what his quirk is. Until one day, Izuku saw a dumbbell that that Inko's husband Hisashi had in the house, but Izuku wanted to understand what that is. At first, when he picked it up, it was heavy, but then steam started to protrude out of Izuku's body, and thus he saw that the curves on his arms, the veins started to pop little by little. And thus Izuku realized that he might have a quirk. Inko seeing that this is not a 5 pound or 1 pound, it's a 25 pound. And 4-year-old Izuku just gripped it like it was nothing more than a cat or water bottle. Now, Inko was just like, Izuku, dear, why do you look like that? And that's because Izuku gained a little bit more height, and his muscles are a little bit defined. Well, as defined as a child can truly make it. Think of like Go. Think of like child Goku when he was younger. Kid Goku. That's how his muscles look. And Inko's just like, son, did you just go through the protein powder or something? And Izuku just looks at Inko and just says, Mom, why are you looking at me like that? And she takes him to the quirk doctor, and they find out that Izuku has a quirk that basically rejuvenates his muscular structure. Not only that, provides it with extra. It basically provides him with muscle, and that's converted from energy. And Izuku was kind of a picky eater back then. So the doctor theorized that Izuku's body was eating a little bit more since Izuku was a growing boy with a big appetite. And the doctor must have realized that it stored that much calories to where now, once it was being burned off, the muscles started to form. And Inko just says, so my son is a muscle boy? The doctor told her that that may just be the case. It may just be that he has a quirk that just not only gives him the actual strength, but it gives him the extra muscle. So Inko just says, so what is his quirk then? They say that his quirk is just a muscle quirk. Although it's a little more unusual since muscle quirks usually are just popped up. More times than not, it's either a strength quirk or a muscle quirk. Sometimes the two don't actually mix. there are some cases where a person is given big muscles, but they actually can use it. Izuku, on the other hand, can actually gain muscle and actually use the strength. And seeing how his body is a little bit more different than his previous time going to the hospital, we can say that there's more of a strength output too. Maybe at least 25 to 50%. And Inko says, so does that mean that he's going to be okay? And says, oh yeah, he's going to be okay. He is going to be more hungry, a bit more hungry though, so it's understandable that Izuku is going to be going to the gym more often. Or needs to at least go to the gym so that way he can work on his quirk. And he's going to also need to eat more. Inko says, okay, so my baby's okay. And this is when they say, yeah, that's exactly what it is. The young boy right there, he's young Izuku right there, is going to be a perfectly healthy boy. There's no problems with him. He just has a quirk that's awakened. And Inko was relieved about that. So when they go back home, Izuku says that that he's hungry, and she says, "Oh yes, Izuku, I'm sorry about that." And she calls Hisashi, telling them that their son has a quirk. Hisashi is actually intrigued on this, seeing that he has a fire quirk and Inko has a telekinetic quirk. Now, now that they understand this, they're gonna be taking Izuku to go eat from places or just make something from the house. More times than not, Izuku's favorite food to just go and eat is cheeseburgers. Now, with all this being said, Izuku has gone to school and looked more different around the years, from being just a normal looking student to someone who is at least 2 to 3 feet taller than most students around his grade, to just bulking every now and then. Seeing that Izuku is just normal at one point, because he really can't just change his height from 5 feet to 3 feet. But he can just make his muscles no longer buff. He can kind of just regulate it. So if he needs to use more output, he could just buff up his muscles and then bam, right there. And with Izuku being more of he's more of a bodybuilder, a lover, so he does look at videos and then he sees All Might. And he's intrigued by All Might, but he's also liking the fact that All Might's just a big buff dude and he wants to just wrestle him. So Inko has proposed that since Hisashi is making more money now, that they will take him into a wrestling facility. And Izuku says, okay, that's actually very cool. Now, the person that I'm going to pick for Izuku's teacher is a man named Zangief. Although a training montage will be best way to say it, this training montage will just have it to where Zangief trains him. There will be times where he will be shown in the story, along with probably another character. But along the lines, Izuku, his first meeting with Zangief, he says, "Hello, how are you?" And Izuku says, "Huh?" And he says, "I love your country, Japan." And this is when another person comes in and says that, I'm sorry, this man here is the trainer for our gym or our wrestling gym. But the thing is that he's from a place called Russia, which he tells Izuku, and Izuku, now starting to understand this, says, "Oh, okay." And this is when she says that he does know Japanese, but more times than not, he will speak probably in English or in Russian. And Izuku just starts to nod his head. Now, with that being said, Deku will start talking to Zangief, and these two will start to actually be comfortable with one another, and to just not comfortable, but Izuku will be comfortable enough with him, and Zangief will be ecstatic to be training Izuku. That's what I meant to say. Because Izuku at first didn't think that this will be fun because this guy is like really just a trainaholic. And Izuku just wanted to learn wrestling. But Zangief tells him that making your body stronger is what makes it beautiful. And wrestling makes it easier for you when you have big muscles like that to grip, to basically punch, to even jump into to jump up in the air and try to squash your opponents, full with the power of beautiful muscles. And he looks at him, and Izuku just starts to train under him, learning how to grapple, learning how to make a submission hold, throwing his opponents, jumping on them, and just squashing them. Izuku is taught really, really early on by Zangief, saying that you can do it, you can keep going. And Izuku sometimes looks at him and just says like, I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're trying to say, sir. But these two start to have this bond similar to the two people from Major Armstrong and this other dude. I don't know what his name is, but that's besides the point. He just decides to, well, he basically just works out, and that's the training montage where he can just do other things. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay. I'm sorry. I remember now the name. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But his name is Curtis. That's his name. But that's all I remember. I think that's his name is Sig Curtis. And then you also have freaking Armstrong. That's how their relationship is. They start just like doing muscles, and Zangief has trained him, and also he understood Izuku earlier on in the series. I mean, at his childhood, in his childishness, and what made Zangief want to train him more was the fact that Izuku was willing to stand up to a couple of villains, and when they attacked Izuku, even though Izuku got scarred on some scars on him, Zangief saw that Izuku was still willing to just like be in front of the enemy. At one point in time, when Izuku was supposed to go home, Zangief saw him getting attacked by the villains while protecting a mother and her child. Zangief was more than happy enough to show them the proper way of being respectful to children and women, and was very proud of Izuku, and that is more of the reason why Izuku was trained by Zangief, and like Zangief was okay with the whole training montage. That, and not only that, Izuku's quirk is very interesting. since he can also produce muscles at a higher rate, making it way more easier to properly train him. So after 4 years of his life, where he becomes, if he's 7 years old, and during his wrestling years, during his childhood, 8, 9, 10, 11, 6 years, yeah, just 6 years. Izuku isn't bullied for reasons. I mean, for obvious reasons. I mean, he's buffed up and such. But not only that, Bakugo and him seem to be are actually more good friends, to best friends, because Bakugo saw Izuku's strength. When Bakugo was getting ambushed by a couple of people, Bakugo couldn't just simply explode because other people had his hands tied, and not only that, people were just hitting him. Deku just jumped on one of the guys, and then basically just did a frog splash. Seeing that Izuku was there, they just used a guy used a blade quirk and slashed at Izuku's chest, but Izuku just picked up the guy in middle school. This is middle school what I'm talking about. Picked him up and just slammed him onto the pavement. And Izuku just runs up to another guy with a not a fly quirk. He has a quirk where it basically makes him a polar bear. But Izuku just kicks the guy squarely in the chest, causing the guy to not breathe properly. And Izuku just pushes him off of Bakugo. He rips off the duct tape on Bakugo's arms, and Bakugo just says that there's if I remember correctly, he just tells him that don't think that they're friends because of it. But over time, they just became friends. Where Bakugo admires the fact that Izuku, he really didn't care on what Bakugo said, and he humbled Bakugo by just doing a German suplex, causing Bakugo just to like be on the ground and kind of just like realize he's not gonna beat Izuku at this moment. So Bakugo trains by just using his quirk on Izuku, and Izuku just takes the brunt hits of it. And Bakugo just says that you're not useless at all, even though you're just a giant piece of muscle. And Izuku looks at him and says that, for a twig, I'm not going to take that as a insult, because if I looked like you, that would have been way more insulting. Bakugo and him just start laughing it off, and that's how it is with them. Izuku really just takes the hits and then is willing to deal it back, while Bakugo just rushes in to just cause mayhem. And that's pretty much their friendship right there, where they're very chilled with each other. And yes, these two do go to UA. And when Izuku was told about, like, oh yes, Izuku, you're going to UA too, Bakugo says that makes sense. And that's pretty much it right there. Bakugo isn't friends with these two cronies anymore. Like, he just left them. Because he was like, yeah, you guys, I don't want to be the bully anymore, because now I'm just a chilled person. Really, Izuku at one point saw the guy with the eyeballs, not the eyeballs, with the fingers, just picking on a student, and Izuku just broke one of his fingers off. Well, just broke a finger, and just told him to never do it again. And Bakugo realized that this guy is way more hardcore than me. And when the guy with the wings quirk said that his quirk can makes him more stronger than him, because he kind of does have like dragon. He does have dragon wings, and I think he has dragon horns in the series. So he kind of has a dragon quirk. Izuku grabs him and starts doing like the anaconda squeeze technique. And if you guys watch Nacho Libre, you guys understand what I mean. So this, so Bakugo's one of the Bakugo's crony right there, former ex crony, literally just was on the ground, just gasping for air. And after that, the whole sludge villain incident occurs. And don't get me wrong, I am kind of skipping a couple of like situations here, but Izuku's life has been really great. He has his mom and dad. He has a trainer. He has somebody who trains him, and not only that, he has no reason to be bullied. Now he does have more scars over time because he does run into villains that do bad things. But that's basically because Izuku's more outgoing, so he does run into trouble, or yeah, that's pretty much it. He either runs into trouble, or he just mind, or people just mind their own business and not do anything bad. That's pretty much it right there with Izuku. But with the sludge villain incident, it's an interesting one because now Izuku is dealing with this character, and how he deals with him is way more different than how people may think he'll go. Because basically, Izuku has this ability where when he uses way more calories or way more energy, there's steam that puffs off of him, and yeah, they just see Izuku just shoots out steam out of his body, and then just looks like this hulking figure, or this buff man, this really buff All Might looking imposter, which kind of made the sludge villain very scared and run the opposite direction. And Izuku is just catching up to him until somebody just comes in there and takes care of the villain, which is All Might. And all Izuku was just like, "Wow, that's All Might. I didn't think that he would be here, but he is the number one hero for a reason." And this is when he says, "Sorry, sir. I did not mean to get you into trouble, but you do know that even though you're a, you have a strength quirk, you shouldn't be doing it without a hero's license. You will get into trouble." And Izuku says, "Yes, sir." And he says, "What is your name?" And Izuku says, "Oh, my name's Izuku Midoriya." And he says, "Okay, do you have your ID on you? Just a little bit of precaution." And Izuku says that he doesn't have an ID. And he says, "You don't have your ID?" And he says, "Okay, well, how old are you?" "I am 14. All Might does a little bit of a double take, and he's like, "Wow, I don't know what they've been feeding you kids, but whatever they're doing a pretty good job at it." And Izuku says, "Oh no, this is my quirk." And All Might just says, "Yes, I'm kidding. I know that somebody with your physique at that age has to be having a quirk on him. Has to at least have a quirk to look just as big as you. But you do know that using your quirk out in public still is a bad thing. I'll let you go, but remember to always keep your nose clean." And Izuku just bows towards him and says that, "Okay, thank you, sir." With that, All Might is off. Oh wait, sorry. Give me a second here. Anyway, I'm back. So, Izuku just bows his head and just walks towards, just goes home because it realized that maybe he might get into trouble if he just doesn't go home. Now, with that being said, Izuku spends the next 8 months, 8 to 10 months, training. Just starts just doing power lifts, well, deadlifts, power lifts. Just does bench pressing, cardio. He does a bit of calisthenics, and then he just does water aerobics. He just does work. He just works out, and then he became way more bigger. And one day, at one point in time, Izuku does see somebody in trouble, and Izuku just says that maybe it's good if I just cover my face with something. And he sees he sees a paper bag, and he just puts it over his head and just rips out two holes for his eyes, and then just starts running. I mean, full on sprinting. And when this guy just hears, when he feels like a little bit of tremors coming by, little by little, he just sees that this man, this hulking figure, is just running towards him. And before the guy can really just like use his quirk, Izuku just gives him a full blown tackle, causing the guy to just pass out for a second. And then he sees Izuku. Well, he sees just a muscular man telling him to not do that, and he will report him to the police. This is when the guy just starts using string quirk, and just wraps Izuku up. And he says, "I was gonna have fun with that girl right there, but with you, I'm gonna just cut you up." And this is when Izuku just pulls his head backwards and then just slams it before the guy can really just register what he was about to do, causing the guy just to pass out. So, when he looks over there to the other side, the paper bag just is, well, it's kind of already torn off. But he says that, "I'm sorry, Matt. I'm sorry, miss. I didn't mean to scare you. I saw that you were in trouble, and I decided to go to help you out right away." And the young girl just looks at him and says, "Thank you, sir." And he says, "Don't worry," and just runs off. Realizing that the paper bag kind of tore off, Izuku was like, "Ah, damn. Hope she didn't see me. She didn't see me, or at least won't be able to recognize me." The girl was left speechless, but decided to call the cops. Later that day, they said the guy said that it was just a big buff dude just tackling him, and said that guy was no joke. And this is when Inko literally just stares at Izuku, just saying, "Honey, what is there something you want to talk to us about?" And Izuku says, "Nothing. Nothing at all." He says, "Huh?" He says, "Don't hum me. You went to go do some hero work at your age?" This is when Hisashi just chimes up and just says, "Honey, in his defense, we didn't look like that in his age." And she says, "Dear, I understand what you did was for the goodness, for the safety of that girl. But don't you understand you're still my baby boy? And Izuku just says, "Yes, mom. I understand, mom. It won't happen again, mom." And then she just starts doing like the anime version. I guess you could say where she just pounds on his chest softly, but with him, it's like it doesn't even feel like anything. It's like a feather just like tapping him. And yeah, remember like she's still he's still young, and to her, that's still his baby boy. That's still her child. But yes, Izuku does. He is now starting to do hero work like every now and then. But Izuku does have a title under his belt known as just Muscle Man. And that's pretty much it right there. But I'm ending it off right now. I know it's a short video, but I wanted to give you guys a bit of like understanding that I'm back. I will make a video. I'm going to make at least, hopefully, 3 videos a week, 3 or 4 videos a week, so that way you guys can get your daily dose of Fallouts. But anyway, guys, I hope you all having a great day. So, like, comment, do subscribe to the channel here. This has been the Fallout Whatever here, and I'll talk to you later. So, bye.